Hey, T-Sippers. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, T-Sippers. Hey, 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 hey. Come on in, come on in. Hey, T-Sippers. Hey, T-Sippers. Y'all, come on. It's kind of late. I'm going to go ahead and start. We talking about Dirty Diddy with his dirty sons. What in the world is going on with Diddy? He planting them bad seeds. I know I spoke it. And I know I kind of, hey, Crystal, hey, Precious, I'm back. I'm going to try to keep it. It's going, and how is it going? And I'm tired. I'm tired. Tired. I'm tired. But I got to get ready for what's coming up this week. With this verdict. I should have, just chilled, Crystal. But you know, I just can't do that. Hold on. So let me see what's popping over here with Diddy and these dirty ass boys. Diddy and the dirty ass boys. Well, what is charade? Diddy trial witness. The Punisher discusses what jury may do. No. Not guilty. Okay. Crystal. Since then, we got off with that Trump stuff that fed up the judge deal something. He lost another one of them lawsuits that he got going on. I said, Lord, no file. I'm trying to catch up on what people been saying about dirty ass Diddy, but let me see what they say. Cause listen, I was looking at something. They got some old ones. This been coming. I'm gonna go on and start.
Trafficking and racketeering trial in federal court in New York.
Hold on.
A bombshell new lawsuit that involves Sean Diddy Combs, but isn't against the disgraced music mogul, as Diddy is listening to closing arguments in his sex-strapped. A bombshell new lawsuit that involves Sean Diddy Combs, but isn't against the disgraced music mogul, as Diddy is listening to closing arguments in his sex trafficking and racketeering trial in federal court in New York. His son, Justin, has been hit with a lawsuit by a woman who claims that he lured her to Los Angeles to be raped by multiple men, including his dad, Sean Diddy Combs. Now, this isn't the first time that Justin has been named in a lawsuit with his famous father. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart.
Not the first time. What type of dirty fracker-knackle? Father like son
of this new lawsuit involving the son of Sean Diddy Combs. It was just in the hours after the government on Thursday finished their closing arguments in the case against the disgraced music mogul that we learned about this new lawsuit against Sean Combs' son, Justin. Justin is one of Diddy's 7 kids. Here he is with his dad's arm around his shoulder. Justin has been in court supporting his dad, just as his siblings have been over the past 7 weeks of testimony. Now, listen, whatever your feelings are on Sean Combs and whether you think he's guilty of the charges that could put him in federal prison for the rest of his life, you just have to think how difficult it must be to hear about all the sexual exploits of their father. But if you believe the allegations I'm about to tell you in this new lawsuit brought against Justin Combs, Justin apparently was very aware of his dad's lifestyle. The new lawsuit that just dropped was filed by a woman from Louisiana who says in 2017, Justin Combs coaxed her to come to LA because she says that Diddy's son promised her a job in the entertainment industry. She claims the two had met on Snapchat, and Justin allegedly asked for explicit pictures, and she sent them. The woman, who's not named in this suit, says when she got to LA, she was raped by several men, including a certain music mogul now at the center of this high-profile, historic trial in federal federal court in Lower Manhattan. Yes, Sean Diddy Combs. The alleged victim claims that Justin invited her out west for a weekend to talk about her career. But when she got there, she says she was kept in a house in Beverly Hills. And according to the lawsuit, things seemed fine at first, but when she allegedly asked Justin Combs if they were going to leave the house, he said no. She claims that Justin Combs offered her alcohol, pills, and weed, and she thinks that the weed was laced. Now, you can see in those allegations some of the comparisons in this lawsuit
exactly
to
the
so-called
same
freak-offs that we have been hearing about for weeks at the center of the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking and racketeering trial. The woman says after she took the drugs, 3 men entered the house and all of them were wearing masks. Now, it's unclear what kind of masks the men were wearing, but when I read that part, I thought about the testimony of Sheree Hayes in the Sean Diddy Combs trial.
The Punisher.
Known as the Punisher. He testified that during a freak-off, Sean Combs allegedly wore a face covering that he likened to a Muslim hijab. In the lawsuit against Justin Combs, the alleged victim says that she knew that one of the men was Diddy just because of his mannerisms, but how about this? She also knew it was Diddy because she says that Justin, as his dad, entered the home to allegedly rape a woman that he brought to LA, called Diddy, quote, Pops. Now, we see on Justin's social media that Pops is the phrase that he often uses for his dad. In this lawsuit, the alleged victim claims that she was led to a bedroom where she was allegedly told, quote, you better let this happen or else. Then she says that each man took a turn raping her, calling it a, quote, brutal gang rape. After that, she was taken to an airport on Monday and flown home. Not only is Diddy facing the possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison if convicted of all the charges in his sex trafficking and racketeering trial, there have been nearly 80 lawsuits filed against him in civil court. Many are still active. Several of the lawsuits accuse Diddy of sexual abuse and are filed. Rod claims that Diddy coerced him into sexual acts, and you can see the suit also names Justin Combs and accused Justin of covering up a shooting in 2022 at Little Rod's studio in LA with his dad. In May, a judge did dismiss Justin from Little Rod's lawsuit, so he is no longer facing those allegations. As for the lawsuit filed in the hours before his dad's attorneys were to make closing arguments, E! News reports that Diddy's attorneys have denied the allegations, but it's unclear what Justin's response is at the time of this recording. Joining us now is criminal defense attorney Will Corman. Always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for being with us. What stands out to you in this lawsuit that Sean Combs is named, but also his son Justin?
Well, it's interesting. I think the connection to Sean Combs is pretty tenuous. You know, we've gone through this all. It almost seems the one connection to Sean Combs they actually put on him is the allegation that Justin called one of the masked men Pops during the course of the assault or just before the assault. That's it. The other connection, obviously, is that Sean Combs is Justin Combs' dad. So I think it's a bit of a stretch. You know, again, we're just receiving these documents now. We're just going through this lawsuit now. Perhaps there's more out there, but it really doesn't seem that way.
And of course, people who are victims of sexual violence, you want them to get their justice. We have seen dozens of lawsuits filed against Justin's dad in the wake of when he was indicted for the trial that he's on right now. How do you go through these lawsuits and understand who's telling the truth and who actually has a case that could be heard in court? Someone like Cassie Ventura, when you see that video from 2016, or you do look at some of these Jane Doe lawsuits and you wonder how many of them are true.
Look, as a criminal defense attorney, it's my job to be cynical, and it's my job to, you know, review everything with a pretty jaundiced eye. So the question really becomes are there corroborating facts and circumstances from Jump Street that make sense? So, for example, if this lawsuit is alleging that something happened in LA during a specific period of time, do we know that Sean Combs was there? Do we actually know that he was present in LA? These things aren't difficult to find out, but it's those baby steps to trying to build the foundation of a lawsuit to see what's realistic that really matter in a case like this. And as you so correctly said, we want victims of domestic violence, of sexual violence, and so on and so forth to actually be compensated accordingly. Unfortunately, when we have circumstances where we have somebody famous who's been charged with crimes, we have somebody famous who's been sued, there can be instances where other folks jump on the bandwagon. And I'm not suggesting that's what's happening here, but it is something that everyone needs to look at skeptically.
Right, absolutely. What does, if you were to bring a lawsuit against someone like Justin Combs, or any of these, and even the cases involving his dad, and you're bringing a civil suit, what facts do you need to have? I mean, certainly if you have a victim who says that this happened and they're ready to, they're able to provide some corroborating evidence that something happened, what do you actually need to be able to go to the courthouse and say, I'm filing a lawsuit against this person?
I think that you need to have somebody who's willing to state under oath that this is what happened to me, that this is what I'm alleging, these are my damages, this is how it's impacted me. And as an attorney, again, I would want to make sure, especially in a lawsuit like this where it involves a high-profile person, but quite frankly in any lawsuit, that there is some corroborating information out there so that my lawsuit isn't tossed out of court pretty quickly.
And reading through this complaint, it mentions several other lawsuits. You have the lawsuit from Rodney Jones, who's known as Little Rod, and Sean Combs is facing that lawsuit, and his son was named in it, but has since been dropped. What do you make about it having all these other different cases and elements brought in? What is the attorney here trying to prove?
Well, it almost appears as if the attorney is saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. So here are all these other lawsuits, and I've reviewed the complaint, and they talk about them in some detail. They don't just list them. They say, this happened on this date, and this person sued Sean Combs here, and this person sued Sean Combs here for this set of facts and circumstances. And they're essentially trying to say, because there's all these other lawsuits, you should give this one a stamp of approval, because again, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Tony Busby, his law firm is bringing this. He has been, in the civil world, a very, very prominent name. For those who don't know him, and you work in criminal defense, what do you know about Tony Busby? Knowing that it's his law firm bringing this, what does that tell you?
I don't think that the Busby law firm is taking these allegations lightly. I believe they have the resources to do their own investigations prior to actually filing these suits. So this isn't some, sole practitioner who's trying to jump on the cottage industry that's been created around suing Sean Combs. I think that they have the ability to investigate this. They have the ability to decide whether or not they want to take on these cases. And I think that does lend some credibility, albeit, not a ton, but I think it does lend some credibility to the facts and circumstances surrounding it. In other words, this alleged victim didn't just walk in off the street to some random law firm who then is saying, oh, we now have the ability to sue Sean Combs. This is someone who's been down this well-trod path before and probably knows exactly what the pitfalls are in suing somebody as prominent as Sean Combs.
This lawsuit came down, at the time we were recording this, came down last night, so that was a couple hours after the government finished their closing arguments against Sean Combs. And as we're recording this right now, Sean Combs, his defense team is giving his closing argument. What do you make about the timing of this? It's against Justin Combs and Sean Combs' name, but it's happening right in the middle of maybe the most pivotal part of this entire trial.
I don't exactly know what to make of the timing of it. I think it's interesting. I think that I'm a little surprised that it's come out so late, but sometimes we don't know what led the alleged victim in this lawsuit to break their silence and to file this lawsuit. Perhaps they were watching the testimony or reviewing the testimony in the criminal case and said, oh my gosh, that's exactly what happened to me. Perhaps they said, they listened to the testimony and they said, there are so many victims here. I believe that I am one too. We don't know what prompted it. I think the timing is interesting, but I don't know that I can make anything of it as we sit here right now.
I think of recently you had Tyler Perry, prominent name in Hollywood, very different case, but accused of sexual violence and sexual harassment, workplace harassment with an actor who had worked on one of his shows, and the actor provided text messages in the complaint. This doesn't have that. Very different case. But the fact that there's not that visual evidence that we can look at, and I don't know what type of visual evidence would exist in a case like this, but the fact that we don't particularly have those, does that take away from the weight of what this lawsuit may actually be in the end when it comes to the truth?
Well, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, because the filing of a complaint is just simply the first step. And all the complaint needs to needs to do, on paper anyway, is set forth the factual allegations that are enough to sort of not get the case thrown out at the first few stages. And that bar is pretty low. So there may be tons of evidence surrounding these allegations that aren't in the lawsuit. They don't need to be in the lawsuit. Again, there needs to be just enough to get us through those first few steps. Excuse me.
As Sean Combs, we're awaiting, once the jury gets the case next week, and then we'll see what the verdict is. But guilty or not guilty, he's going to be dealing with a lot of civil cases that are still pending. What does the timeline look like for Sean Combs? Let's just say he's found not guilty of everything. What does the legal timeline look for him? How long could he be dealing with the issues related to all these civil suits?
That's a great question. First of all, I don't think he's going to be found not guilty of everything. So that's a separate issue entirely.
Yeah.
Having said that, again, different jurisdictions have different statutes of limitations for sex assault victims to bring lawsuits within which, or timelines within which they can bring the lawsuits. And so again, depending on where allegations come from, those statutes of limitations can be very long. It also matters on how old the alleged victim was at the time that the incident took place. For example, there have been a number of states which have extended statutes of limitations for minors who were sexually assaulted. Those statutes of limitations are much longer than for adults who've been sexually assaulted. So it really does depend. And I know that's not quite answering the question, but I suppose the easiest answer is it could go on for quite some time.
And you look at this complaint, the complaint is for sexual assault and battery, gender violence, negligent supervision. I think a lot of people would look at this and they'd certainly, if all of this is true, what a horrific experience that this victim went through. Why is this not a criminal case?
That's a great question, and I suppose that this victim could have brought this to the county attorney's office or whatever local prosecutorial body there are. We don't know the answer to that. Perhaps quite frankly, we simply don't know the answer to that. But it's also important to remember this, that Sean Combs is named in this lawsuit. I have reviewed this lawsuit. The connection to Sean Combs is pretty thin from a legal standpoint. It just is. So we don't know why this wasn't brought forth criminally. Perhaps the person decided they would rather seek their own form of justice from a civil standpoint. Sean Combs has a lot going on criminally right now, and perhaps it wouldn't even be prosecuted. Again, if he's found guilty of all these offenses in federal court in New York, Sean Combs is going to prison for decades. He's 55 years old, not that old, but he's still going to prison for a very long time. So I don't know that the LA District Attorney's Office or whatever prosecutorial body is out there would bother pursuing criminal charges if Sean Combs at age 55 just gets a 30-year sentence federal.
Wait a minute, what did he say? I had to stop. What did he say?
I assume he'll have...
He going for a very long time.
Inheritance or how he financially makes a living.
I think the timing is interesting. But I don't know that I can make anything of it as we sit here right now.
I think of recently you had
We don't know what prompted it. I think the timing is interesting, but I don't know that I can make anything of it as we sit here right now.
I think of recently you had Tyler Perry, prominent name in Hollywood, very different case, but accused of sexual violence and sexual harassment, workplace harassment with an actor who had worked on one of his shows, and the actor provided text messages in the complaint. This doesn't have that. Very different case.
Very different.
But does that, the fact that there's not that visual evidence that we can look at, and I don't know what type of visual evidence would exist in a case like this, but the fact that we don't particularly have those, does that take away from the weight of what this lawsuit may actually be in the end when it comes to the truth?
Well, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, because the filing of a complaint is just simply the first step, and all the complaint needs to do on paper anyway is set forth the factual allegations that are enough to sort of not get the case thrown out at the first few stages. And that bar is pretty low. So there may be tons of evidence surrounding these allegations that aren't in the lawsuit. They don't need to be in the lawsuit. Again, there needs to be just enough to get us through those first few steps. Excuse me.
As Sean Combs, we're awaiting, once the jury gets the case next week, and then we'll see what the verdict is. But guilty or not guilty, he's going to be dealing with a lot of civil cases that are still pending. What does the timeline look like for Sean Combs? Let's just say he's found not guilty of everything. What does the legal timeline look for him? How long could he be dealing with the issues related to all these civil suits?
That's a great question. First of all, I don't think he's going to be found not guilty of everything. So that's a separate issue entirely.
Yeah.
Having said that, again, different jurisdictions have different statutes of limitations for sex assault victims to bring lawsuits within which, or timelines within which they can bring the lawsuits. And so again, depending on where allegations come from, those statutes of limitations can be very long. It also matters on how old the alleged victim was at the time that the incident took place. For example, there have been a number of states which have extended statutes of limitations for minors who were sexually assaulted. Those statutes of limitations are much longer than for adults who've been sexually assaulted. So it really does depend. And I know that's not quite answering the question, but I suppose the easiest answer is it could go on for quite some time.
And you look at this complaint, the complaint is for sexual assault and battery, gender violence, negligent supervision. I think a lot of people would look at this and they'd certainly, if all of this is true, what a horrific experience that this victim went through. Why is this not a criminal case?
That's a great question, and I suppose that this victim could have brought this to the county attorney's office or whatever local prosecutorial body there are. We don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, she's not local. I thought he flew her in.
We simply don't know the answer to that. But it's also important to remember this, that Sean Combs is named in this lawsuit.
Right.
I have reviewed this lawsuit. The connection to Sean Combs is pretty thin from a legal standpoint. It just is. So we don't know why this wasn't brought forth criminally. Perhaps the person decided they would rather seek their own form of justice from a civil standpoint. Sean Combs has a lot going on criminally right now, and perhaps it wouldn't even be prosecuted. Again, if he's found guilty of all these offenses in federal court in New York, Sean Combs is going to prison for decades. He's 55 years old, not that old, but he's still going to prison for a very long time. So I don't know that the LA District Attorney's Office or whatever prosecutorial body is out there would bother pursuing criminal charges if Sean Combs at age 55 just gets a 30-year sentence federal.
And for Justin Combs, and I assume he'll have, he has, I don't know if he has a trust or an inheritance or how he financially makes a living. Certainly it's part of being in the circle of Sean Combs. How does he pay for an attorney? Does that have to come from it? Because I think if Sean Combs is found guilty and all this money, and he's got a lot, but maybe we don't know how much money Sean Combs has, frankly, but we know that it's going to a lot of these cases. How does Justin Combs defend himself? Does this get wrapped into, if his dad's going to have to defend against this, is it a 2-for-1 when it comes from the defense side?
It could be. We certainly don't know what the corporate structure is of Bad Boy Records and all the other entities that are named as defendants in this lawsuit. I have a feeling that Justin Combs will get counsel. I have a feeling that Justin Combs will get excellent counsel. How it gets paid for is probably something we'll never know, but it's not as if he's going to be flipping through Google looking for a lawyer to represent him on this.
And even if a lawsuit has,
because this is not the first time,
and this is more just a hypothetical question, because I think some people do look at some of the Tony Busby lawsuits, and there's an idea of all of these are just a money grab, and we'll see. To your point, a very prominent name who is representing alleged victims to Sean Combs. But if someone were to file a lawsuit that's fruitless, you still, as the person who is being accused in that lawsuit, would have to pay for an attorney, have to show up in court and kind of play along. Is that you have to play along with the lawsuit until it's dismissed?
Sure. You can't read a lawsuit and say, this is garbage, crumple it up and throw it away and then ignore it. It doesn't work like that. You would have to get a lawyer who is able to get in front of a judge and explain to the court why this lawsuit is frivolous and should get cut off at the soonest possible opportunity. And as I said, there's now a whole cottage industry surrounding these Sean Combs lawsuits. There just is. So, no one can afford to simply ignore this lawsuit and pretend it didn't happen. It needs to be addressed, frivolous or not. Again, I certainly don't know if it is frivolous, but regardless, everybody who's named as the defendant here does need to take it seriously.
For this plaintiff, beyond assuming, I mean, Diddy's defense has said that there's no merit to this story. We haven't heard at the time of this recording from what Justin Combs, his representatives are saying. I mean, right now he's sitting in court listening to the closing argument that his father's defense team is making. But beyond a witness's account, and she says she was there, and this happened, and it was horrible, and if there's no other evidence, and it's a complete he said, she said, how does that play out in civil court?
So again, it's enough. I mean, a victim getting up on the witness stand and saying, this is what happened to me, that's evidence. Now, a jury may want corroboration, but there's no requirement that there be any. And that's the job of opposing counsel, right? To say, well, how come there's no DNA? How come there's no text messages? Where's all the proof other than the victim's testimony that this happened? And that's what they would argue. But the fact of the matter is it is enough. There's no requirement that there be something else out there, some smoking gun, literal or figurative, to show that this actually happened. If this witness is able to get up on the witness stand, go through direct examination, go through cross-examination, if the jury finds that that person is credible, that's enough.
And lastly for you, kind of an on-the-spot question. If you had to guess how much Sean Combs' legal fees are for fighting back on these civil cases, I mean, ballpark, what would you think?
Are we talking about just the civil cases, or are we going to,
Well, let's start with civil first, because then he has, the starting, like the all-star team of lawyers on his criminal side as well, and I'm sure that's not cheap.
The 2025 dream team, as it were.
Right.
I can't even begin to imagine what this looks like. I just can't. I mean, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars at a base level.
Tens of
$100
millions.
million if we're throwing in the criminal cases.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Because I think, too, like, even if you were to, not be able to afford a top-flight lawyer for even one of these cases, and that lawyer, doesn't win in court, and Sean Combs is found guilty of one of these sexual assaults that he's accused of, I mean, the reputation there, on top of everything happening in the criminal case, would be damning. So it's a lot of money, to say the least. We'll see how this one plays out. Will Corman, it's always great to have you on.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Where do I go after that?
That will do it for On the Case present.
Ooh-wee. Diddy, why? I guess that's a man thing, but why would you endanger your sons? I mean, I can't say what that type of daddy would do that. And then I'm hearing another lawsuit has come about on Diddy. This time it's a guy.
I'm 21 years old. Maybe
Hold on, let's check this one out.
Don't mix pink salt with lemon and 2 other ingredients if you don't want to donate your entire wardrobe in less than a week. Don't believe me?
because of who their mother and who their father is. But now did they have a curfew? Make sure y'all do me a favor, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button too. Diddy is in the news with his son this time. It's a family affair. They're being accused of doing some brutal things. P. Diddy and son Justin accused of brutal gang scraping and new lawsuit. So he was freaking off with his own kids. And I always wondered that.
With his kids.
Did they have a curfew? I'm starting to see that privileged kids, the privilege go beyond having money and being able to have new clothes and drive cars. The privilege is more than that. They can commit crimes, get away with it. You see it all the time. These rich kids do plenty of things and get off because of who their mother and who their father is. But now we starting to see that Diddy's lifestyle spilled over into his relationship with his own kids. And it don't sound far-fetched. They're claiming that he had wild hotel nights with his sons. He broke them in. I'm not saying that they don't love their mother, But you can't have respect for your moms and you doing stuff like this, especially with your dad. He had to have a talk with them about their moms. He had to let them know how their moms get down to even think something like this is okay. If these rumors are true, but it's all over the place, they're getting sued. Somebody is demanding top dollar. And I hope this not another Shine situation where Diddy get out and somebody got to do the time for him. I hope he ain't trying to flip this on his son, because if he do, you know, he the buffest son he got. The other ones, they ain't gonna make it in jail. But Justin, if his real daddy is Wolf, he got it in him to do the whole however long they trying to give him. Diddy's son Justin Combs lured a woman to Los Angeles with promises of getting her a job in entertainment. But when she arrived in LA, she was kept in the house for days and ended up being scraped by multiple men, including Diddy, at least according to the new lawsuit. In a lawsuit obtained by TMZ, the woman claims Justin initially contacted her through Snapchat in 2017, and they messaged back and forth, with the woman eventually sending Justin some nasty-ass photos at his request. She says after she sent the snaps, Justin offered to fly her to LA for a weekend, so he figured she good to go. She already sending the booty pictures. It's about to go down. They gonna feast. Bring her out. Now she making it seem like that's not what it was. When she say get her a job in the entertainment industry, a job doing what? Freaking off? Was he signing her up to be another Cassie for entertainment?
Nope.
That don't mean you could say
they had said a long time ago that
he gonna put you on with Tyler Perry. I
was
he got that type of pull. So she had to know what she was getting into. That's just my personal
for his
opinion.
daddy, for young girls.
But according to the court of public opinion, you know, it might not be the case.
He was
the
a
woman
scout.
said she was interested in working in the entertainment, and Justin.
That's how he made his money, scouting.
In their conversation, and she claims Justin told her a trip to LA will help her potential career, telling her if she came, he would get her a job using his.
Did he simp for her, or did she fly on her own?
Yeah, a job on her knees, man. In her suit, the woman said she flew to LA in April 2017, and the driver picked her up in a black SUV, drove her to a house in Beverly Hills. She said she stayed in the house with Justin the first night, talking and relaxing. Okay, I'm over it. I ain't about to entertain this bullshit. They getting sued because he flew a chick out and they smashed.
They talked for the first night?
Whatever, however it went.
Wow.
They took advantage of her, according to her. She was thinking that Justin was going to get her in touch with Oprah Winfrey so she could start her show on ABC or CNN or some shit like that. And it didn't go according to plan. Now, people been sending me videos. Y'all been wanting me to do reviews of these videos, so we're about to get into that. But before we get into that, we got to get into a little bit of this. Let me see what this is about.
To help break it all down, let's go to Mercedes Colwin, trial attorney and co-host in the morning podcast, and Claudia Colon, attorney and jury consultant. Ladies, only the smartest to have here tonight to talk about this. Okay, Mercedes, you first. How did the prosecutors do in that 5-hour closing today after this long case?
They did an excellent job of threading the needle. It's so difficult because you can imagine,
baby, if them jurors sneak to watch TV,
34 witnesses, they have to bring it home. And how do they do that? They start with the charges and they start going charge by charge, because when the jurors get that verdict, they're going to have to go through those charges during the deliberation process. So that's the way the prosecution did. Starting first with the toughest criminal part is racketeering. It had to show how this was a criminal enterprise. Who were the enablers? He had employees. He had security. He had assistants.
And they said they knew, not only knew what was going on, they enabled it. They went out and bought drugs for him. They arranged, hotel rooms to be lined with blankets and sheets and stocked with cases of baby oil.
And punished Cassie Ventura when she wasn't complying, taking her devices, taking her passports. These were things that these enablers did, the security did, when they took some of her devices. So that punishment came in. But the other parts, I think they did a really good job. The other charges are easier. Obviously, sex trafficking is one of the easiest ones.
Claudia, the defense gets its shot tomorrow.
I don't like it, y'all. I don't like it. They make it seem like, damn, how could I say this without being an asshole or whatever? They make it seem like it wasn't consensual. People consent to some shit, and then they want to unconsent when it benefits them. You know, you was with it. You went along with it. Yeah. That's like a rat going for the cheese. You get caught in the trap, and that's just how it goes, man.
No, they could decide they don't. That rat can decide right before. No, I don't want to.
And French vanilla.
And turn around.
You out here chasing that cheese, you gonna find yourself in some sticky situations.
Or you better not eat it.
And that's how they get them every time. It's the money that have these people doing what they be doing. They wouldn't do it for free. If Diddy was broke, they wouldn't find themselves in them scenarios. So if people willing for money, then, you know, if you want to blame the money, like he said, more money, more problems. He couldn't get the Punisher to come free Cassie. Well, he could have got him to free Cassie off for free without no money. I believe that. Man, to bang anything. I don't even understand why he paid them niggas. He could have got a whole bunch of willing dudes. All he had to do was pull up to the block. He didn't like women. He was finding dudes off of Craigslist and all that dumb shit. Send her ass walking down the street with some booty shorts on. It's gonna be a line of niggas waiting. He could have freaked her off way better than he did for free. But he's a gentleman about it. They need to at least consider the fact that he was generous with all this shit he had going on. It's not like these people that getting paid. They made the best money they ever made in their life being in Diddy's company. And the stuff he had them doing, he could have had his sons or people around. He could have had people do that shit for free just to be in his company. You know what I'm saying?
Sir, what's your name? Please stop that. Stop. Cause old girl, Jane Doe, she only made $2,500 a week. If she got 10 grand a month, that is just $2,500 a week. That is not the most money folk done made. And don't have to do a thing. So stop that. Stop that. When you do the math on Jane Doe, 10 grand a month, it sound like a lot, but it ain't. He still paid the men more money. Let's be clear. Y'all need to stop.
But they didn't even present a case. I mean, they did nothing.
How can you defend that?
Witness to the stand. Why? What is that? Is that supreme confidence, or
no?
Can you explain what the tactic here is?
I think it is that the defense position tomorrow, when they do their closing.
Oh my God! See, this is why. This is why I really didn't want to touch it until next week, because I cannot fathom the way they think. He didn't want to go on this stand because he knew that what these folks was saying was the truth, and he knew that they was waiting to eat his ass up. If he took his arrogant, conceited, lying, manipulative, trifling ass on that stage, they was going to break him down and he was going to lose his cool. Period. Because they laid it out. Real good and simple. All you need is one of those offense.
Argument is going to be, the government has this high bar they need to meet beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think the reason that they didn't bring a witness and they didn't bring, for example, somebody to counter their expert on the psychology of abuse is because they're confident that their cross-examinations revealed what they were looking to reveal, which is basically to impeach the witnesses, catch inconsistencies. I don't know if you recall the testimony about the balcony that didn't quite line up for that
No, there was one witness that was definitely problematic.
Right.
A lot of inconsistencies.
They're going to target that in their closing statement. And I think the theme of not having their own witnesses is kind of supporting that argument of there's no case here. They have not met their burden.
Do you agree with that, Mercedes? What do you think the defense needs
Man,
to do?
shut up. I bet all three of them right there going through some shit at their job. Some horny bastard. And they corporate offices or wherever they work at. I'm pretty sure they dealing with it right now. Some asshole sniffing around the women's bathroom. They experienced it too while they talking about Diddy. Ain't no telling how they got up in them damn chairs or who they got introduced to in order to get the job. Oh, Natalie, you look so nice in that dress. What old geezer put them in position to even be speaking on Diddy? You know? Make it seem like he's the only one of his kind. Like they ain't heard stories, they ain't got co-workers, they ain't heard through the grapevine. They got some weirdos up there at the news stations or whatever. Like Stephen A. Smith ain't groping asses. This woman, she got her breast all out. The chick sitting next to her looking like something stank. The whole interview, man.
Lord, who am I
Look
watching?
at her face. She like, like you funky bitch.
Let me.
Like, do your shirt have to be that long? She looking at
Lord, who am I?
Justin is even Diddy's son.
No, he not.
So they freaking off together. They might not be related.
That's Wolf's son.
And Diddy be looking at Quincy like he a piece of meat. So you never know.
This
He
was
probably
funny
wanted
to
to see
me.
Justin naked in the hotel.
Oh my God.
I'm pretty sure he let him bang out Cassie.
But listen, I ain't gonna even lie. I ain't gonna even act like I ain't thought that maybe he done something with them boys. I am not gonna even fake the fun. None of them. I don't think nobody is off limits with Diddy. I think he is just out there that bad. I don't think nobody off limits.
We gotta get into this, man. Y'all listening? Yo, make sure y'all do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the video.
He gotta go to prison.
Share the video too, and let me know what
Because
y'all
he
think
is
about
not
this in the
gonna learn a
conversation below.
lesson
Let's get into this real quick.
if he does not go to prison.
It's like, damn. How your son look like your best friend?
Oh,
If he like it, I love it.
Girl, I knew a lot was going to get exposed about Diddy, but I never thought it would go to the extent of tabling receipts about Misa Hilton's son Justin not being his biological child. The savagery, OMG. And with the lawsuits, people are now asking questions like, was Justin a product of one of Diddy's freak-off sessions? Did he allow the alleged biological father, Anthony Wolf Jones, to sleep with Misa Hilton in front of him? Whew, so word on the street is that Justin...
Yes, the fuck he did, man. I could see it all in his face. He don't look nothing like Diddy. He probably feel like a sense of euphoria when he freaking off with Diddy. Like the memories come, like he was conceived that way.
we don't know that. He does not know that.
He probably in his
He
element.
does not
during
know
the
that.
freak-offs.
He does. Back
Like, this
then,
is my
I don't think
essence.
Diddy was
If it
probably
wasn't
that
for a freak
freaky.
off, he probably wouldn't even be here, man. Hold on.
Was Justin a
I don't know
product
this
of one of
cat, so
Diddy's
I may
freak-off
not be able to
sessions?
listen
Did he
to
allow
him.
the alleged biological father, Anthony Wolf...
Hold on.
Did he allow the...
Like, boy, come on in here. Let me tell you a story about your mama.
Oh no.
You think it's all peaches and creasy?
I'm trying.
These Grammys and shit, if I wasn't a grimy motherfucker. Like your mama sat right there and bust.
No, I ain't gonna pay to do him. I don't even know who he is, but Hold on. Let me move on. Move on down the road. Which one is this one? I want to see this one. Hold on. Because this one I'm about to show. Hold on. Are y'all still here? I know I was having internet outages, so give me a 1 if y'all can hear me, because I'm having internet issues while I'm just moving right along. Can y'all hear me?
In yet
y'all
another
hear me?
lawsuit against embattled rapper Sean Combs, a woman claims that she was lured into traveling to an exclusive Diddy party through a radio contest, only
This is
to be
another one.
assaulted and wake up in the hospital.
This
We're
is
gonna break
another
down
one.
this bombshell new lawsuit for you in the continuing Sean Combs legal saga.
This is
Welcome to
another one.
Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Well, it's another day and another Sean Diddy Combs
Yes, ma'am.
lawsuit
Okay,
to
okay,
break
okay.
down. And the first thing that I noticed about this lawsuit, which was filed, by the way, in federal court in New York, this is in the Southern District, this is the same jurisdiction where Combs is being prosecuted criminally for federal sex trafficking, racketeering, and prostitution charges. The first thing that I noticed about this lawsuit is that the plaintiff here identified herself. Yeah, so unlike many other lawsuits that Sean Combs has faced since he was first sued by his ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura back in 2023.
Now, again, this
many
is
of
a
these
different
people
one.
filed anonymously. In fact, the lawsuit that Jay-Z is facing right now in a joint lawsuit with Sean Combs, that is an anonymous
See, it won't even let me
Jane Doe.
change my
This
background.
lawsuit, this accuser here has identified herself, and she has identified herself
Let you go. I'm trying to see how I can. There she go. They have. She kind of favors that girl. That English girl. Let's go.
Latoya Grayson. Few things to note here. Number one, first of all, for her to come out publicly against Sean Combs, it's a big thing, right? It's a big thing, not easy to do. Second of all, I wonder again, as we've seen in other lawsuits where you have Jane and John Doe's trying to proceed anonymously in their cases against Sean Combs, this just could be another example. Well, here's another accuser who filed a lawsuit against Sean Combs, revealed her identity. You don't have enough grounds, you don't have enough reasoning for you to proceed anonymously. But also it seems to me, because you are seeing a number of those lawsuits where the courts have said that these Jane Does have to reveal their identities, she may have said, I'm just going to skip that step. If I'm going to sue Sean Combs, I'm going to identify myself. Okay, now let's talk about the lawsuit. When she filed this lawsuit against Sean Combs, she didn't just name him as a defendant. She also named Bad Boy Entertainment, Atlantic Records, Mike Savis, who is described as an employee of Atlantic, Delta Airlines, an Oklahoma radio station called KJAMS 105.3 FM, the Roger Smith Hotel in New York, and others. And I will explain how they are all put together in this complaint. Now, the first part of this complaint kind of sets the stage, the timeline. It talks about Cassandra Ventura's lawsuit, talks about how other lawsuits came out after she filed hers, all against Sean Combs, talks about his arrest, his denial of bond, and then it says this. Plaintiff now alleges she, too, is one of the many victims of defendants Combs and the other defendants named herein. Plaintiff can support her allegations and has suffered extreme emotional distress impacting nearly every aspect of plaintiff's life and personal relationships. Given all the brave individuals who have come forward against defendant Combs, plaintiff is also doing the same. So who is Latoya Grayson? Well, apparently she is a resident of Oklahoma who says that when she was 23 years old, back in 2006, she was assaulted. So according to her, back in 2006, that is when KJAMS, this radio station, began promoting a contest that was sponsored by Sean Combs, Bad Boy Entertainment, and Atlantic and Delta. And the contest offered a winner of an all-expenses-paid vacation for two to New York City to attend one of the infamous Diddy white parties. Sounds like a great thing, right? And Grayson explains that she and her sibling entered this contest, and her sibling won. That included apparently round-trip airfare for the winner and a guest. Brought her along, a hotel room, 2 white party tickets, the whole shebang. But Grayson says this wasn't a typical white party. Rather, it turned out to be a promotional party. And also, she says it was really strange because the date was rescheduled without any kind of warning or explanation. And it was also changed from a white party to a black party. So, okay, so now you're seeing kind of difference in how it was being marketed to what the actual gift or prize was. Now, throughout this complaint are photographs. And one of the photographs is what purports to be a letter from Atlantic with instructions on how to attend the party, and also photographs of what appear to be the plane tickets. So Grayson says she and her sibling, they go to New York City, which, by the way, neither she nor her sibling had ever been to before. They check into the Roger Smith Hotel, and embedded in the complaint is what appears to be a copy of the invoice or cash deposit from the hotel as well. Again, further evidence to show that all of this happened. From there, she claims that she was picked up in this transportation van that was arranged by the man I mentioned before, Mike Savis from Atlantic. And by the way, from Delta to Roger Smith to Savis, you can see how all of these different defendants, their roles in what is allegedly about to happen. And aside from the heinous accusations in these Diddy lawsuits, as a lawyer, as a legal analyst, I gotta say, there is really impressive lawyering going on in these filings. And whenever I think of that, how could I not mention another great set of attorneys, our partner, our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Look, here's the deal. If you get injured, you have to know what your legal rights are. You have to know if you can be compensated. And Morgan & Morgan, they have a dedicated team of over... Grayson says in this van were all the other contest winners from other cities. She says when they arrived at this party, not everybody was let in. No, they were judged based on their attractiveness. Only the attractive people would be let into this party. And that is important because she claims she was let into the party, her sibling was not. Essentially meaning she was alone.
She left her sibling. She chose to leave her sister. Oh wow. She played herself. I mean, she wasn't supposed to be violated, but
It's further evidence that she had won this contest, took the trip, went to the party. Embedded in this complaint are what appears to be photos that she took with celebrities at the party, including rappers Babs and Bone Crusher. And here is where everything takes a turn. I'm going to read directly from the complaint. While at the party, there was no bar for partygoers to get drinks. Instead, pre-made drinks were being circulated throughout the party by waitresses. After less than 2 pre-made drinks provided by the waitresses, plaintiff began to feel sick and tried to go to the restroom. By the way, this echoes what we have seen before with other allegations of Sean Combs. The allegation that he had sexually assaulted a 13-year-old girl, by the way, back in 2000 at a VMA's after party.
Yeah.
I believe in that complaint, it was that she had just taken a drink that was being offered and all of a sudden began to get sick. Moving on. The next memory plaintiff has is a waking at St. Vincent's Medical Center of New York. Photographs of the statement of account from that medical center and a hospital ID band, again, appear to be embedded in the complaint as well. It goes on. Plaintiff has no memory or no recollection on how she ended up at the hospital. When plaintiff regained consciousness at the hospital, she noticed her shirt was ripped, her underwear was missing, she was not wearing any shoes, and the money she had traveled with was stolen. The only money plaintiff had remaining
was what?
$20.
They stole her money?
Plaintiff was admitted to the St. Vincent's Hospital, treated. Goes on. Plaintiff has no memory or no recollection on how she ended up at the hospital. When plaintiff regained consciousness at the hospital, she noticed her shirt was ripped, her underwear was missing, she was not wearing any shoes, and the money she had traveled with was stolen. The only money plaintiff had remaining was a $20 bill. Plaintiff was admitted to the St. Vincent's Hospital, treated, and released. And she explains that when she was released, she was a tourist. She'd never been to New York City before. There were no smartphones, so she really couldn't figure out how to get back to her hotel. She claimed she had to hail a taxi and use the only money she had left, the $20 bill, to get her back. The complaint goes on. When plaintiff returned to her hotel, she called a friend and explained she was not sure what happened to her, but plaintiff believed she was drugged, assaulted, robbed, with no memory of how she arrived at the hospital, as her last memory was being at Diddy's black party. And then she claims she ends up flying back home. But then, this is where things take yet another turn. The complaint reads, the day after plaintiff returned home from New York, she received a call from a New York area code with an anonymous female caller. The anonymous female caller asked to speak to plaintiff. The anonymous female caller then threatened plaintiff, telling her that any attempts to pursue anything about plaintiff's assault would be futile because defendant Combs was a celebrity and that plaintiff would just be wasting her time. Plaintiff was confused and scared as she did not know what happened to her. Plaintiff hearing from this anonymous female caller was further jarring and traumatizing as plaintiff learned that not only was she viciously assaulted, leading to her waking up at the hospital, but that defendant Combs was involved, and plaintiff would be unable to seek justice for her injuries because of defendant Combs' celebrity status. And then it goes on to say for approximately a week after she had returned home, she felt this constant pain in her private area, and it's pain that she believed was from rough sexual intercourse. But again, she says she has no memory of engaging in intercourse with anyone. The complaint goes on to say, plaintiff did not seek medical treatment or otherwise report her assault to law enforcement because she was scared and confused. First, because she did not know exactly what happened to her. Second, because of the threat she received from the anonymous female caller of defending Combs' involvement, and it being a waste of time due to his celebrity status.
How did they get her number?
How, as a result of what happened to her, she suffered from depression, anxiety, she has felt shame, she felt betrayed by all those who facilitated her attending this party, and as a result, she says, she hasn't been able to keep a job or be a productive member of society, that she's experienced intimacy issues. This is a harm component that's important in these kinds of lawsuits. What did you suffer? It's important for a damages analysis. And she says the reason that she filed this lawsuit now, so many years later, is because Sean Combs is currently locked up in the Metropolitan Detention Center with no bond, that she finally feels safe to come forward. Okay, before we move forward, I have a few thoughts on this. First of all, from a legal point of view, the weaknesses in this case, in this claim, are that she doesn't remember anything. That includes not only the alleged assault or what exactly happened to her, but even her meeting or having any interaction with Sean Combs. She is basing this off what someone else allegedly told her.
Right.
The hospital visit, the pain she felt, yes, that's important. But can you tie it back to Sean Combs? There is clearly, evidence based on her account, her hospital visit, the pain she felt. You could say that is evidence of sexual assault for sure. But again, can she prove that it was directly tied back to Combs, that he did this? And look, of course, episodes like this are very common in assault cases where the victim or alleged victims, they don't remember anything, particularly if they've been drugged. But in a court of law, that could be an issue. Now, on the other hand, if she is being portrayed as someone who is just making this up to go after Sean Combs, that this is another payday, couldn't she have made up details that were more helpful to her case, that were more beneficial? Couldn't she say, yeah, I remember Combs came into the room, he did this, he did that? No. The fact that she says, this is what I remember, this is what I don't remember, and then recounts just this bizarre alleged phone call, perhaps that makes this story even more credible. Plus, on top of the photographs of the different parts of this trip, that will help. She also explains, this is why I never came forward earlier, as why a lot of people didn't come forward earlier. It took something for him being locked up in a detention center for me to feel comfortable about coming forward. Also, from a legal point of view, it may become an issue to tie all of the negative things that have happened to her in her life to this alleged assault. Could be an issue, something that I think the defense would explore if this goes to trial. Now, let me go into what the causes of action or claims are in this complaint, what she's suing for. The first is a RICO or racketeering claim. So aside from the fact that Sean Combs is being criminally charged with racketeering conspiracy, we haven't seen one of these in a lawsuit against Diddy in a while. I remember that Sean Combs' former producer, Rodney Little Rod Jones, He filed under a RICO claim in his cause of action. He claims that he was sex trafficked and assaulted by Sean Combs. So this is an interesting cause of action. And racketeering is about a criminal enterprise or series of illegal activity. And as she lays out in this complaint, one category is dealing in obscene matter. Now here, Grayson says that all the defendants are 100% liable for what Combs allegedly did to her, that they financially benefited from Combs, that they provided him with the resources he needed to do this, and they didn't investigate or monitor him. The complaint reads, the support provided by the RICO orchestrators to defendant Combs was a lifeline that spearheaded and maintained the defendant Combs' depraved actions. Upon information and belief, the establishment of a business relationship with a prominent record label, Atlantic,
This is sad. Can y'all please hit the like
Delta and
button?
Roger Smith Hotel,
Double tap your
allowed
screen.
for a distribution platform for all defendant Combs' business endeavors to disguise his true intentions with overly broad and vague in nature descriptions of activities. Defendants knew or should have known that defendant Combs had no intention to utilize the resources he received for business-related purposes, and they did not put any mechanism in place to ensure that their resources, specifically their publication, were not being used for any illegal activity. Defendants' willful blindness resulted in plaintiffs suffering the harm detailed herein. And there was this idea that the criminal enterprise, these activities cross state lines. And it reads, the defendants have unlawfully increased their profits by luring and deceiving individuals such as plaintiff under false pretenses for defendants' personal desires, deviances, and gain. That there was a common purpose to enrich themselves at the expense of people like Miss Grayson. And all the defendants were direct participants in this fake marketing scheme surrounding a safe party for people to attend. But Grayson was allegedly abused there. This was their fault. This was all an illegal conspiracy or agreement. And she even claims that there were multiple acts of wire and mail fraud as evidence of this RICO enterprise by distributing marketing materials and contest instructions and secure wires and cash payments, all to, again, allegedly lure in unsuspecting victims like plaintiff. Now, as part of this claim, Grayson is not only seeking a variety of damages to compensate her, but also, and this was interesting, she is requesting that she be granted an incentive or service award. So we usually see this in litigation, particularly in class action cases, where a court will reward a plaintiff for the work that they did in the case, understanding the risks that they took in bringing this case. She's also suing for assault and battery, negligent hiring, training, supervision, and retention on the part of Bad Boy, Atlantic, and K-Jams for employing people that allowed this alleged misconduct to happen. She's suing for negligence and that everyone owed Grayson a legal duty of care. Negligent and intentional infliction of emotional distress, which are very kind of broad, all-encompassing claims, either engaging in conduct likely to result in emotional distress, or its conduct is so extreme that it just goes beyond the levels of human decency. And finally, she is suing, and this is the one we've seen before, she is suing under the New York City Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act. We've seen this in other lawsuits. And this complaint actually does a good job of explaining what that is. So this law created a 2-year look-back window from March 2023 until the end of February, March 2025, for survivors of gender-motivated violence to sue their abusers for claims that would otherwise be time-barred. Sexual assault is a form of gender-motivated violence. The idea here, allegedly drugging and assaulting Grayson at a party thrown for radio contest winners, is a crime of violence that was committed because she was a woman, and there is a degree of animus towards women, and that is evidenced by a lack of consent. So aside from a plethora of damages for each claim in the award that I mentioned before, Grayson is also in this lawsuit seeking a judgment that declares all the defendants engaged in unlawful practices. Now, in response to this reportedly $15 million lawsuit,
$15 million
on behalf of
there
Combs
we go.
is issued to Fox News Digital, and it reads, Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted anyone or engaged in sex trafficking. Ms. Grayson admits she has no memory of the events alleged in her complaint, does not know who was supposedly involved, and has never spoken to Mr. Combs. Her allegations against him are pure fiction. As we've said before, Mr. Combs cannot respond to every baseless lawsuit and lawyer-driven money grab. He has faith in the judicial process in which fact will be separated from opportunistic fabrications like these. By the way, before we end things, so Grayson is being represented by Ariel Mitchell. This is somebody that we've interviewed here on Sidebar. She is somebody who's represented other Sean Combs accusers. And as you may recall, she also represents Courtney Burgess, who reportedly testified in front of a grand jury, apparently hearing new evidence in Sean Combs' criminal case. Burgess claimed that he had in his possession multiple sex tapes of Combs and celebrities. So this is a big development, another big lawsuit. We will see where this goes. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts.
When is he gonna get enough? I mean, it just was no stopping him. What did he think? That he would be able to do it forever? Oh my goodness. Hold on. I got a few lined up for us tonight. Oh, excuse me. Where is it telling me I got, okay, so it must be something in the title. I'll fix that. Okay, hold on. Let's check out this one.
And that when one makes an accusation, another one makes...
Is thick, smelly muck building up in your pond? It forms from decaying leaves, fish waste, and...
Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. I can't say I'm that surprised with what I'm about to talk about. 2 more sexual assault lawsuits filed against Sean Diddy Combs, and we're going to get to those. But why do I say I'm not surprised? I say that because CNN published that bombshell video over a week ago, surveillance footage from 2016 of the Intercontinental Hotel in LA that showed what appears to be Sean Combs running down a hallway in a towel, chasing down Cassandra Ventura, his girlfriend at the time. Point, he even appears to throw a vase in her direction. And in the days that followed, the uproar against the rapper grew even louder. Posted a video on Instagram, which some have said feels kind of weak.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. But sometimes you gotta do that. I was up.
Baby, that right there is all they need. This one right here.
My behavior on that video.
This one right here is the one that they need when they say they only need one with Cassie. The show. This one right here. That video, he's already admitted to doing it. He's saying he was in a dark place. All of that. I know this right here removes the reasonable doubt.
It's inexcusable. I take full responsibility.
You take full responsibility. Go lay down. Go sit down for a thing.
I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted.
So why don't you just go ahead and sit down? If you took responsibility for it, you knew it was horrific. You knew it was awful. You paid double. You wouldn't take no for an answer. You knew it was bad. You knew it was criminal. So when they say you have to know that you're committing a crime, you knew it. That's why you and your enterprise went through those measures in order to get it. And you went yourself. You called and you went. So honestly, this is the one they need for racketeering. Yeah, the one that covers the sex trafficking. This the one right here.
Now, I went and I sought out professional help. Now they're going to therapy. They're going to rehab.
So I wonder what happened to that. Why you stopped? Why you stopped? They started tapping off into something that you didn't want to, you know, go there, because you know you start going to therapy. Baby, they go deep off into your roots. They was going deep off into where you got this from and who did it to you and before you got in the industry. So why you stop?
Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness.
I didn't like that right there. I didn't like that right there. I'm not asking for forgiveness. You know why? Because you know you're going to do it again. Why are you asking for grace and mercy? What did you say? Mercy and something? But you're not asking for forgiveness. Why? Why? Why would you not ask for forgiveness? Why are you apologizing? Are you really apologizing? Why would you not want somebody to forgive you for all the things that you did? Or are you saying you don't want God to forgive you? What are you saying? That right there, I couldn't process this. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Who says that?
Sought out professional help. Now they're going to therapy. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. Now they're going to therapy. They're going to rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace.
But not forgiveness. He ain't asked God for forgiveness.
But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
And I said, one of the things that could come from this 2016 video, and maybe more importantly, Diddy's seeming confirmation that that was him on tape, this apology video, what could come of it? One of the things that could result is that more accusers would come forward. Do not be surprised if you hear more allegations. It is not surprising when you have a major accusation levied against a celebrity, specifically a tape like this, that more people would follow suit. And I'm not saying that these additional claims aren't legitimate in any way. No, as I'll explain in a minute, there are a number of reasons we don't hear those claims earlier on. But what we do know is sometimes in these situations, people feel emboldened to come forward. Now, the other way of looking at it, and this is what Diddy has put forward, there is narrative put forward by him and his legal team and his camp, is that this is just everybody piling on and that everybody's trying to grab a quick buck, and that when one makes an accusation, another one makes an accusation. Okay, now these two lawsuits, again, I'm going to get into them in a minute, but they already come on a wave of blowback against the rapper and music producer. Multiple lawsuits have been filed against Combs since Ventura launched her lawsuit back in November of 2023 against Combs. She ended up settling. But multiple lawsuits, including hers, allege claims ranging from sexual assault, sexual harassment, sex trafficking, illegal firearms and narcotics possession, shootings, acts of violence, and so forth. Combs denied all the allegations, except it seems now.
Emergencies can strike at any time. That's why it's crucial to be prepared.
Create a support system of people who can help you in a disaster.
He might be confirming the Ventura incident.
Absolutely, he
What happened
confirmed
in
it.
that video.
He
right?
confirmed
You know
it.
what that apology video was. We also remember the federal agents raided Combs' properties in LA
He
and Miami a
confirmed
few
it.
months back, reportedly pursuant to an ongoing sex trafficking investigation. While no arrests have been made, no charges have been filed, and I want to be clear on that, experts that we have spoken to here on Sidebar say it is possible that could all be on the horizon.
How could they legitimately find him not guilty when he has confessed? How could that be possible? When they clearly said that all you need to do is find one. I know we showed you 5 or 6, 7, 8 of them. But out of all the ones we showed you, give us one. Each person, which one do you think shows either force, fraud, or what's the other one? Force, fraud, is it coercion? I mean, but yeah, it's that one. Because he confessed. I choose that one.
Aside from the public and public opinion turning on Combs, Combs' business empire has been severely damaged.
Oh, yes.
America's Best Eyeglasses, they're a recent one. They just cut ties with Combs. And while they didn't give an exact reason, the company announced it will, quote, no longer carry Sean John. They've pulled the frames from the retail stores and their website. Sean John is a fashion label created by Combs in the late 90s. The tuition-free charter school co-founded by Combs, Capital Preparatory Harlem, ended its partnership with Combs.
Yeah, he don't need to be around no kids.
Hulu had reportedly been working on a reality show about Combs and his 7 children, but reportedly that was scrapped back in December. Combs also reportedly stepped down as chairman and sold shares of Revolt TV. CNN has reported that fitness powerhouse Peloton has removed Combs' music from its platform. And back in April, Billboard reported that airplay of Combs' songs were down significantly overall. The city of New York reportedly considering taking back the key to the city that was just given to Combs in September of last year.
Yeah,
and
take
now,
that back.
just the last week, 2 more women have come forward, claiming that Combs sexually assaulted them. Let's break down these latest lawsuits now. On May 21st, model Crystal McKini filed her lawsuit against Sean Combs, Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings, Sean John Clothing LLC, and Universal Music Entertainment Group. Now, she's suing under the New York City Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act. Very important here, because this is how this lawsuit is able to potentially move forward. Why is it not time barred under the statute of limitations when you're claiming something from, as you'll hear, 2003? Well, an amendment was passed that gives survivors of violent crimes that were motivated by gender that occurred in New York City a 2-year look-back window to sue. So the window is from March 1st, 2023 to March 1st, 2025. Sexual assault would fall into that category of a violent gender-motivated crime. And the statute says that it revives any claims against, quote, a party who commits, directs, enables, we'll talk about that, participates in, or conspires in the commission of a crime of violence motivated by gender, has a cause of action against such party in any court of competent jurisdiction. And the idea is this. Look, of course, a plaintiff will still have the burden to prove their case at trial, even though the burden is lower than a criminal case. It's a preponderance of the evidence in a civil case, not beyond a reasonable doubt like you have in a criminal case. But it basically says more likely than not this happened. But yes, you still have to put on a case. You still have to prove this happened at trial. You have to convince a jury or a judge. But at the same time, even though there is that burden, you don't want to completely close the opportunity for survivors of sexual assault to receive justice for what happened to them. They should not be punished for coming out when they do. Because we have learned over time that sometimes survivors, they don't come forward with their accounts for years. Number of reasons: shame, fear, embarrassment, Maybe they don't even realize they're victims.
Right.
It takes a while to even appreciate that and accept that. So we shouldn't penalize them for wanting to seek justice. Now, again, they'll have to prove their case. Older claims, tougher to prove. Older cases, tougher to prove, but we'll see. Now, as I mentioned, interestingly, this is the first time Sean John has been named in particular in one of these civil actions, and you'll see why in just a second. The complaint explains that when she was 17 years old back in 1998, McKinney won MTV's first model mission competition. She was given a modeling contract.
So y'all, let's be clear. This is also a different one.
Magazines. And then in 2003, when she was 22 years old, McKinney says she was invited to attend a men's fashion week event being held in New York. Now, the person who invited McKinney is only referred to in the filing as the designer. But according to McKinney, quote, the designer told plaintiff that he would be introducing her to Combs, which could advance her modeling career. The designer began to direct plaintiff's appearance as he sought to ensure Combs found her attractive. The designer then handpicked a black leather coat with a fur hood, a translucent chiffon, beige V-cut shirt, fur-lined handbag, and jewel-encrusted jeans for plaintiff to wear to the event. Due to the traumatic events to occur later, plaintiff saved the unwashed clothing from that night in her closet, where they remain in a plastic wrap. Wow.
Oh,
so
she got his DNA.
The question, of course, is could that clothing be forensically tested? And you'll see why in a minute. But I think we need
her blue dress
to talk a little bit more
she
about
got
that.
her Monica Lewinsky.
So McKinney goes to this event where Combs is having dinner with several people. And the complaint reads, quote, once seated, Combs made a very public display of coming on to plaintiff in a sexually suggestive manner. Then he said he had the power to help her career, continued to be very flirtatious. He also allegedly kept plying her with alcohol. And at the end of the night, or the end of the dinner, he allegedly told her he wants to get to know her better. Now, this is something that Combs has been accused of time and time again, using his power, money, influence to make things happen, good or bad, but also as a way to exert control over his alleged victims. So later that night, McKinney says Combs texted her to invite her to his New York studio. She says when she got there, Combs was sitting with several men who were drinking and smoking marijuana. McKinney says she accepted her first hit of marijuana, but now believes it was laced with some other narcotic. McKinney claims that Combs then led her to a bathroom where he allegedly forced her to perform oral sex on him, despite her saying no. Quote, upon standing and walking, plaintiff felt more and more woozy and then lost consciousness. Plaintiff awakened in shock to find herself in a taxi cab heading back to the designer's apartment. The lawsuit says that after the alleged assault, McKinney didn't get as much work in modeling or acting. Eventually, she couldn't get any work at all. Upon information and belief, Combs had plaintiff blackballed in the industry and utilized his significant influence to impede plaintiff's career growth. Plaintiff became severely depressed as she began to blame herself for the assault and for sabotaging her own career. The assault led plaintiff into a tailspin of anxiety and depression. In or about.
So what was the point of blackballing her? I mean, she did what? Oh, let me hush.
Narcotic. McKinney claims that Combs then led her to a bathroom where he allegedly forced her to perform oral sex on him, despite her saying no. Quote, on standing and walking, plaintiff felt more and more woozy and then lost consciousness. Plaintiff awakened in shock to find herself in a taxi cab heading back to the designer's apartment. The lawsuit says that after the alleged assault, McKinney didn't get as much work in modeling or acting. Eventually, she couldn't get any work at all. Upon information and belief, Combs had plaintiff blackballed in the industry and utilized his significant influence to impede plaintiff's career growth. Plaintiff became severely depressed as she began to blame herself for the assault and for sabotaging her own career. The assault led plaintiff into a tailspin of anxiety and depression. In or about 2004, plaintiff attempted suicide and was hospitalized. Wow. McKinney also states that she was married from 2006 to 2010, but according to her, her relationship fell apart because she had a mental breakdown connected to this traumatic experience. And this all goes, by the way, to the harm element of a lawsuit. What did you suffer? What are you seeking? McKinney's lawyers state in the complaint, quote, as a direct and proximate result of the aforementioned crime of violence and gender-motivated violence, plaintiff has sustained and will continue to sustain monetary damages, physical injury, pain and suffering, and serious psychological and emotional distress, entitling her to an award of compensatory and punitive damages, injunctive and declaratory relief, attorney's fees and costs, and other remedies as this court may deem appropriate. By the way, punitive damages are a way to punish the defendant for really extreme conduct. And by the way, when you're adding all of this up, this could equate to a lot of money. This could equate to millions of dollars, but we will see. We're not at that point yet. Hey there, everybody. You know how we talk about Morgan & Morgan all the time? Just an incredible partner of ours here on the show in Law and Crime. Dan Morgan, actually, is so easy. You just text law to For the People. That's for crime of violence. Well, defendants Bad Boy Records, Sean John Clothing LLC, and Universal Music Group Inc. enabled or participated in the sexual abuse of plaintiff because defendants failed to, among other things, protect plaintiff from a known danger, have sufficient policies and procedures in place to prevent sexual assault, properly implement policies and procedures to prevent sexual assault, take reasonable measures to ensure that policies to prevent sexual assault were working, train their employees on identifying sexual assault and inappropriate workplace behaviors, protect their employees from sexual assault, and adhere to the applicable standard of care. Now, I imagine Combs' team would say this allegation is isolated, that it is personal, that it is not connected to the businesses, and they should not be on the hook for this. But you can see how they're trying to say that these companies enabled or participated or facilitated this abuse. Well, McKinney is demanding a jury trial or a judgment against the defendants that would award her, as we mentioned, compensatory and punitive damages plus legal fees. So that was one case, and that again was filed, I believe, on the Tuesday following the release of this 2016 Intercontinental video.
There's more.
Apology. By Friday, our understanding, Combs was hit with yet another lawsuit. And here is a name that you will probably recognize if you have been following us here on Sidebar. Tyrone Blackburn. He is the attorney representing not only this alleged victim in this new lawsuit that I'm about to mention, but he is also representing other alleged victims of Combs, such as music producer Little Rod Jones and yacht steward Grace O'Markey. Both have filed lawsuits against Combs, as well as some family members, music executives, and even award-winning actor Cuba Gooding Jr. Now, the Brooklyn attorney, the reason I mention him, has taken a bit of heat. He's a bit controversial. He's gotten some blowback from fellow attorneys and even a judge. There were allegations that his filings are gratuitous, they are overly salacious, and they are done for improper reasons. So keep that in mind as we talk about this lawsuit, because now Blackburn is representing April Lampros. So, in her lawsuit,
I swear, I started drinking this stuff way too soon because when I tell you my stomach, disrespectfully flat. Like, I don't know how I ended up here so soon. I got the drink, all the hot girls are saying.
Lampro says she met Combs in 1994 when she was a student at the Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT. And in fact, the filing includes a photo of Combs with his arms around Lampros and another woman at Bad Boy Recording Studios. And that's actually something we've seen before in these lawsuits filed by Blackburn. A lot of documentary evidence, photos, screenshots from videos. Well, her filing states, quote, when she met Mr. Combs, Miss Lampro shared with him her dreams of working in the fashion industry. And Mr. Combs promised to mentor her and help her by introducing her to music and fashion industry executives as well as assisting her with finding work. Ain't it? Mr. Combs love-bombed her. He showered her with gifts and flowers, as evidenced by one of the cards that accompanied the flowers that Mr. Combs sent Miss Lampros for Valentine's Day in 1994. A photo of the card from the New York florist, The Daily Blossom, says, Happy Valentine's Day, love Puffy. Mr. Combs went so far as to invite Miss Lampros to his first Father's Day celebration, and a picture of that invitation was included in this complaint as well. Again, that kind of documentation helps to establish the backbone of a case, especially since sometimes when you're dealing with older cases, we don't have social media messages or those photos or text message history. So this kind of establishes the context of what they're talking about. Now, from there, the complaint says that what started out as a love-bombing, flirty relationship quickly went south. This is according to Lampros. Quote, upon information and belief, What Mr. Combs displayed as kind gestures quickly manifested into an aggressive, coercive, and abusive relationship based on sex. These acts were not isolated to the state of New York, as Mr. Combs would fly Miss Lampros to Atlanta to see him, where they would spend time together. Miss Lampros would also fly to Miami to see Mr. Combs at his home.
There go that trafficking.
The filing includes 2 photos of Lampros purportedly at Combs' home in Florida. According to Miss Lampros, Mr. Combs had a terrible temper and often threatened to harm her if she failed to do what he said, if he witnessed her talking to other men, or if she failed to take his phone calls. According to Miss Lampros, she was also not allowed to talk about her relationship with Mr. Combs to anyone because he didn't want anyone to know he was seeing her because she is a white woman. The lawsuit then goes into graphic retellings of multiple alleged sexual assaults by Combs. We won't go into the details on those, but suffice it to say, the accusations are very similar to what we've heard from other women. Now, I have to stop and say this. This idea of dangling opportunities and offering things of value in exchange for sex or forced activities, flying these people around to different areas, this is not only consistent with other claims and other lawsuits, but this could also potentially support a sex trafficking criminal case.
Absolutely.
Now, although Combs isn't sued under a sex trafficking statute, as I mentioned, there is an apparent federal investigation happening right now, human trafficking. We don't know who the feds are talking to, who's cooperating, but things like this, these allegations, this could very well be what they are building a case about. This is what you look for in a sex trafficking investigation. Just something to think about. Again, we don't know if the feds are talking to Miss Lampros, but something that came in my mind. Okay, back to the lawsuit. In 1995, Lampros says that she met Combs and another woman at a bar, and she says she felt uneasy after just a few sips of her drink and remembers that Combs and this woman guiding her into a car that went to a hotel. The filing states she recalls feeling like the walls were closing in on her. She was laid on the hotel bed where Mr. Combs forced himself on top of her, and then he proceeded to rape her, and she pleaded with him to stop. She says she passed out, woke up the next morning, was naked, sore, ran out of the hotel. Horrific, horrific account. The filing continues. Months after the first rape, Mr. Combs pursued Miss Lampros. He sent her gifts, cards, and flowers, and used his power and access to music industry events to lure Miss Lampros back to him. Miss Lampros was a hopeful yet naive college student and took Mr. Combs at his word and believed that the first rape was a possible mulligan and decided to give him a second chance. It's an interesting choice of words for mulligan, but important section nonetheless, because it is important to know why she would allow him back into her life after an alleged sexual assault. While that could potentially, hurt her credibility or claims at a trial, we know from the study of these incidents from past cases, this is not uncommon. It is not uncommon that survivors sometimes do stay in contact with their abusers and even maintain relationships.
I mean,
the filing goes on. Mr. Combs was respectful, regained her trust. Things seemed to be normal between the two until the second incident of sexual assault. The filing goes on to describe an alleged assault that took place near Combs' Manhattan apartment. This was at a parking garage where Lampro says Combs forced her to perform oral sex on him and says a parking attendant saw the whole thing. The filing states, quote, once again, Miss Lampros made the decision to distance herself, and once again, Mr. Combs came back with gifts and empty promises. Lampros claims she tried to stay away from Combs as much as possible, but he was calling her incessantly, threatening to hurt her or anyone who might be with her. He knew where she lived and worked, so Lampros says she felt she had no choice but to do what he said. By the way, that power and fear element is also present in other lawsuits against Combs.
I wonder why she wasn't a part of
So from there, the complaint goes on to explain how one night in 1996, Combs ordered Lampros to his Manhattan apartment, where Kim Porter, the mother of 3 of Combs' children who died in 2018, we talked about her in another sidebar, well, she was there. And Lampros claims that after they all went out, they came back, they began drinking, and Combs allegedly forced both her and Kim Porter to take ecstasy pills, even going so far as to check under their tongues to make sure they had swallowed the pills. Lampros then alleges that Combs ordered her and Porter to have sex.
Wow. Wow. When I knew Kim was a part of these freak offs. Wow. That just made a quick left, didn't it? But the looking up under the tongue. So he forced them to take the ecstasy, and they had to show him up under the... Now, why is she not a part of this sex trafficking lawsuit? I wonder. Because her situation... Oh, wow. And Kim Porter...
Sex while he pleasured himself.
Does your internet bill
He
keep
pleasured
getting higher?
himself.
That's because promo pricing is full of surprises. At Google Fiber, there's no...
And then, but he was calling her incessantly, threatening to hurt her or anyone who might be with her. He knew where she lived and worked, so Lampro says she felt she had no choice but to do what he said. By the way, that power and fear element is also present in other lawsuits against Combs, too. I mentioned that before. So from there, the complaint goes on to explain how one night in 1996, Combs ordered Lampros to his Manhattan apartment, where Kim Porter, the mother of 3 of Combs' children who died in 2018, we talked about her in another sidebar, well, she was there. And Lampros claims that after they all went out, they came back, they began drinking, and Combs allegedly forced both her and Kim Porter to take ecstasy pills, even going so far as to check under their tongues to make sure they had swallowed the pills. Lampros then alleges that Combs ordered her and Porter to have sex.
Ordered it.
While he pleasured himself. And then, not long after that night, Combs, according to Lampros, invited her to Porter's birthday party. Embedded in the complaint is an apparent photo of the invitation with the attire requirement reading, "sexy formal." The filing says that Lampros tried to end the relationship with Combs permanently in 1998, but she claims that Kim Porter was resentful of her because she was forced to have sexual contact with her. And Lampros alleged that Porter called the manager of the bar where Lampros worked and falsely claimed that Lampros tried to poison Kim Porter. And then she alleged that Porter threatened that her boyfriend, Combs, could have the establishment shut down if this manager didn't fire Lampros. To which Lampros claimed later that night the manager told her Combs as much as possible, but he was calling her...
Can y'all still hear? I had to move it. Can y'all still hear?
...or incessantly, threatening to hurt her or anyone who might be with her. He knew where she lived and worked, so Lampros says she felt she had no choice but to do what he said. By the way, that power and fear element is also present in other lawsuits against Combs, too. I mentioned that before. So from there, the complaint goes on to explain how one night in 1996, Combs ordered Lampros to his Manhattan apartment, where Kim Porter, the mother of 3 of Combs' children who died in 2018, we talked about her in another sidebar, well, she was there. And Lampros claims that after they all went out, they came back, they began drinking, and Combs allegedly forced both her and Kim Porter to take ecstasy pills, even going so far as to check under their tongues to make sure they had swallowed the pills. Lampros then alleges that Combs ordered her and Porter to have sex while he pleasured himself. And then, not long after that night, Combs, according to Lampros, invited her to Porter's birthday party. Embedded in the complaint is an apparent photo of the invitation with the attire requirement reading, "sexy formal." The filing says that Lampros tried to end the relationship with Combs permanently in 1998, but she claims that Kim Porter was resentful of her because she was forced to have sexual contact with her. And Lampros alleged that Porter called the manager of the bar where Lampros worked and falsely claimed that Lampros tried to poison Kim Porter. And then she alleged that Porter threatened that her boyfriend, Combs, could have the establishment shut down if this manager didn't fire Lampros. To which Lampros claimed later that night the manager told her he had to let her go because Mr. Combs called and demanded that he fire her. Now, the final assault, Lampros alleges, reportedly happened in 2000, when Combs was filming Making the Band. Lampros says they ran into each other near the set, begged to see her. When she said no, he allegedly called her several times over the next few days, eventually convinced her to let him come to her apartment. The filing goes on, according to Miss Lampros, when she opened the door, His security was sitting on the stairwell. Knowing that security was there made Miss Lampros feel a little better about letting him in. They sat on her couch, began talking. According to Miss Lampros, Mr. Combs began apologizing for his past behaviors. He started telling her that he was a changed man. He then showered her with compliments, telling her how good she looked, and kept reminiscing about their prior sex life. He then began dropping hints about them having sex. Miss Lampros rejected his advances. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Mr. Combs violently grabbed her and forced himself onto her. Lampros says she was able to get Combs out of the apartment, but according to her, she couldn't escape her connection to the rapper. According to Miss Lampros, in or about 2023, Miss Lampros was at a function and a gentleman, with the name redacted, informed the man that Miss Lampros was dating that he should reconsider dating her because he personally saw a video of her and Sean Combs having sex. According to Miss Lampros, redacted, shared that he saw the tape during the summer of 1997. According to Miss Lampros, she was told that Mr. Combs apparently recorded them having sex without her knowing and showed it to multiple people. Wow. Now, I'm not surprised because that actually echoes other claims from other lawsuits too. So what causes of action is Blackbird bringing on behalf of his client? Battery, assault, sexual assault, negligent infliction of emotional distress, and violation of the Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Law, which we talked about in the other lawsuit. So the Lampros lawsuit also demands a jury trial or punitive and compensatory damages from the court in her favor. Harrowing allegations. Very, very disturbing. But remember, as a point of law, these are just allegations at this point. Just because Mr. Combs is hit with multiple lawsuits, the fact that he seemingly admitted to beating the Tur on tape, it doesn't necessarily make all the other allegations against him as true. He hasn't been charged with a crime. He hasn't been found liable in a court of law. Now, I do want to end this by talking about Tyrone Blackbird one more time, the attorney representing Miss Lampros. Look, I don't know Mr. Blackburn. I'm just listening to the accusations levied against him, what that federal judge in New York had to say about him. We dedicated a whole sidebar to this, but his filings have a different flair than the other ones. And I mentioned this in a previous sidebar, how he uses very pointed, descriptive, personal language in attacks. Again, comparing it to other lawyers and other lawsuits, I mean, just listen to some of the language from the Lampros lawsuit. Miss Lampros' dreams and everything she's been working hard for were in the palm of his hands. He was blinded by his lustful desire to pleasure himself at Miss Lampros' expense. He devoted this mobster persona, and Miss Lampros was in fear of him. Now, there's nothing wrong with this language per se. It's just a different kind of language to use, but
it's like a book or a movie.
Blackburn that includes salacious details and writings, the accusations of his motives, filing these lawsuits out of the apartment. But according to her, she couldn't escape her connection to the rapper. According to Miss Lampros, in or about 2023, Miss Lampros was at a function, and a gentleman, with the name redacted, informed the man that Miss Lampros was dating that he should reconsider dating her because he personally saw a video of her and Sean Combs having sex. According to Miss Lampros, redacted, shared that he saw the tape during the summer.
So he's selling videos. Y'all please double tap and hit the like button for me, please.
And showed it to multiple people. Wow.
That's messed up.
I'm not surprised because that actually echoes other claims from other lawsuits too. So what causes of action is Blackbird bringing on behalf of his client? Battery, assault, sexual assault, negligent infliction of emotional distress, and violation of the Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Law, which we talked about in the other lawsuit. So the Lampros lawsuit also demands a jury trial or punitive and compensatory damages from the court in her favor.
Hey, Peach Gems.
Allegations. Very, very disturbing. But remember, as a point of law, these are just allegations at this point. Just because Mr. Combs is hit with multiple lawsuits, the fact that he seemingly admitted to beating the Tur on tape, it doesn't necessarily make all the other allegations against him as true. He hasn't been charged with a crime. He hasn't been found liable in a court of law. Now, I do want to end this by talking about Tyrone Blackbird one more time, the attorney representing Miss Lampros. Look, I don't know Mr. Blackburn. I'm just listening to the accusations levied against him.
I'm finna get ready to go to sleep. I think I have one more that's really kind of quick about Justin. Dude, you got a couple of them out there. And it seemed like you're looking at your, he not even your pops, step pop. He not even, he just your adopted. I mean, what are you to him? Here go one more lawsuit that just came in, I think Friday.
This never ends.
Shout out to Ticket.
The motto that, you know, all of the detractors say is everybody lying. They say everybody's lying. And that is the motto they live by. But this situation.
Can y'all hear him?
As simple as that. Now, you guys who don't know what's
oh yeah, you
going
can
on,
now.
I'm about to explain to y'all what's going on. Diddy and another celebrity are once again being accused. Now, as of right now, I believe that celebrity may be in the phase of getting a letter from Tony Busby as far as a demand letter, because that other celebrity has not been named yet.
So it's another celebrity.
Again, the other celebrity has not been named yet. Matter of fact, there is the lawsuit now. It is from a man by the name of Michael West. Now, this man is accusing Diddy and the other celebrity of sexual assault and battery. Well, he's actually filed a complaint for sexual assault and battery, gender violence, and neglect of supervision. Now, he's not saying that Diddy personally sexually assaulted him. He's saying that Diddy and the celebrity cheered on the sexual assault of him by another man at Diddy's party. And I'll let you guys know exactly what he is talking about here. As you guys see on your screen, Michael West has come out and basically stated, and I will give you guys some of what he said. He says, defendant Sean Combs utilized his status as an A-list celebrity and mogul in the entertainment industry to lure me, the plaintiff, to a party at his Los Angeles mansion with the intention of drugging and sexually assaulting him. Now, this is in 2023. These allegations come from. So, just a couple years ago. It says this case seeks compensatory and punitive damages for that sexual assault. The conduct described herein is shockingly typical of how Sean Combs conducted himself for many years. Many individuals and entities facilitated and conspired with his abhorrent conduct. Sean Combs believes he's above the law, and he is not. For decades, Sean Combs abused, molested, R-worded, assaulted, threatened, and coerced men, women, and bleeps.
Oh, wow.
Sexual gratification to assert dominance and conceal his abhorrent conduct. He accomplished these acts and through a criminal enterprise built on his success as a rapper, record producer, and record executive. Diddy is one of the wealthiest musical artists in the world, behind a facade of being a 3-time Grammy winner, discovering and developing multiple famous musical artists, and ranking on Forbes list as the highest paid entertainers in the world. There existed something sinister, a dark underbelly of crime, sex trafficking.
You're welcome, Hattie Morton.
Bribery and prostitution. Sean Combs is a menace to society, women, and children. While his wealth has kept him above consequence for years, Combs now faces an awesome power of the American justice system and ultimately a jury of his peers who will be asked to punish him for the deplorable conduct described herein, right? So, basically, the allegations go as this, and I will get right to them, right? Matter of fact, I want to put this on the screen so y'all can see what I'm talking about. It's on the screen for y'all, because I don't want y'all to miss this. Let me see.
I would. Hold
And
on.
then he says, defendant John or Jane Doe 1 through 10 are apparently unknown celebrities and or persons of interest who enabled or conspired with the commission of the conduct complained of herein. As the parties engage in discovery, the plaintiff retains the right to amend the complaint and add these other celebrity individuals by name. God dog, man.
Celebrities.
Each of the Combs Corporation.
But he don't know their name. Hold on.
Sexual violence against the plaintiff.
Oh, there we go. But he don't know the celebrities' names just yet. Okay.
Traff herein alter
Excuse
ego
me.
for Combs. Completely dominated him for the use of personal interest and engaged in wrongdoing, which harmed plaintiff and others, and or served or had served as vehicles for Combs to move, dispose of, and or installate his assets, including in connection with his criminal activities, and to avoid compensating the victim of his many crimes, including the plaintiff. Now, the allegation.
Oh yeah, it's bad.
Right, that against Diddy from this man and this other celebrity on June the 20th, 2023. So he gives an exact date. He says on June the 20th, 2023, plaintiff was utilizing a dating app called Grindr when he matched with an individual who described himself as a party promoter. He invited the plaintiff to attend what was described as an exclusive party that would be attended by A-list celebrities. He provided the plaintiff with the address for the party as well as instructions for how to get in once he arrived. The address that the plaintiff provided was blank, 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 and I won't read it on YouTube. Of current information and belief, defendant Sean Combs owned and lived at this address. Plaintiff took a taxi to the address, and once he arrived, was immediately taken by the impressive $60 million home. At the door, he was required to show proof that he was invited to the party. His phone was then taken by the event security, who informed him that he would be able to get it back after the party was over. The plaintiff entered the party, which was in full swing by the time he arrived.
Excuse me.
The plaintiff mingled with other guests, noting the presence of several high-profile individuals in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, he's sick. He's sick puppy.
The party, which encompassed numerous different rooms, some of which had individuals engaging in sexual acts inside of them. The plaintiff made his way to a room that resembled a lounge area, with partygoers sitting, drinking, and conversing. He noticed that there were numerous bottles of champagne and ice buckets for the partygoers. The plaintiff
bring y'all on BYOB.
From one of the open bottles, and shortly after finishing his first drink, the plaintiff began to feel abnormally lightheaded, a sensation that far exceeded what one would expect to feel after a single glass of champagne. The plaintiff's memory quickly faded into a blackout. The next thing that the plaintiff recalled was awakening on the floor with his pants around his ankles.
Oh, wow.
Plaintiff noticed that his genitals were exposed and that someone was groping and manipulating his wiener. He looked around and saw John Doe number 1, a black male, groping him while
I wonder if, let me hush.
And
it may be.
Celebrity watched and encouraged John Doe number 1. Plaintiff got up exclaiming, "Whoa, this ain't cool."
Don't mix pink salt with lemon.
Whoa.
2 other ingredients if you don't want to donate your entire wardrobe in less than a week. Don't believe me? Give me...
Plaintiff pulled his pants back up and was made to leave.
These rappers
Combs
sick as heck, ain't
made
they?
no effort to stop him, and the plaintiff quickly exited the party without retrieving his phone. While the plaintiff only saw John Doe number 1 touching him at the time he awoke, all of John Doe, Diddy, and a third individual appeared to be engaging in a group assault on the plaintiff due to their proximity and behavior. The plaintiff has dealt with significant mental and emotional trauma, pain, and suffering, humiliation, and anxiety because of this assault, and he now brings this cause of action to seek justice for the actions perpetuated on him by defendant Combs. So now they're pretty much saying that Diddy and another celebrity, basically this dude said he was gang assaulted.
A gang.
And that Diddy and another celebrity were.
That's his MO. Gang banging.
Identifying other celebrities who were at that party to out them and to out their names as well, right? And that's the
So what is this, number 4?
situation going on.
Including Jason?
One of those ones, man. It's definitely gonna be. And see, this is the thing. Everybody gonna talk about everybody a liar, bro. When you get this many people, bro.
Now, this is a guy.
These type of allegations. When you get this many men, then when you had the man that came out the other day, who was a what? He's a Hollywood executive producer, making these same type of claims against Diddy, saying this dude's a sick individual. But then you will have people who still come out and will defend this guy.
Right.
It's disgraceful, man. I mean, it really is, man. It shows you that people have no moral code or ethics at all. Because you don't even have to believe all the allegations. But you really believe that every single person is lying about this dude?
Did it.
You really believe that every single person is making these stories up about this dude? It just
Heather
shows
Black.
you how
Did it. Done it.
how much people live in La La Land for real.
He's sick. He is definitely sick.
It really shows y'all how disgusting and disgraceful.
And they take that's the thing. They take pleasure in this.
He put his name on it.
They take pleasure.
Name on this one. He ain't hiding behind this.
Now Michael West.
Michael West. He not hiding behind it, and he said that he gonna name the other celebrities as soon as he gets all that information secured.
How Starlight?
Lawsuit now. Sometimes when other people don't get named in lawsuits because they settle behind the scenes first to make sure their name never appears.
Yeah, his name is on here, boo.
You know, when you present evidence that you have, you know, that can cause people to move a certain way.
And they was on the site. He was on the site.
Everybody talking about, oh, Cassie, she did this, Cassie did that. Diddy didn't have to pay Cassie. Cassie had already released the allegations to the world. Why would Diddy pay Cassie after she released the allegations? The damage had been done. If Diddy was innocent, why would Diddy have paid Cassie any amount of money?
Because he could quickly come back and say she lying.
Already been put out there to the world.
So he could say she lying and she was a woman scorned and all of that. She broke, you know. Gaslighting. Okay, y'all, let me go to sleep. I've been doing too much. I'll see y'all in a few hours. Let me get some sleep and get ready for what is it called when they get the instructions? Y'all have a good night. Oh, it's more to it. I'm just gonna have to bring it a little later. So hit your like button, share, subscribe, join the membership. Make sure you hit that top bell so that you can get it. I'm gonna try to come back with the remaining of this. What's that? Oh yeah, I'm sleepy. I'm sleepy. All right, good night. Good night. Don't let the bed. Night. Don't let the Diddy bug bite.